So, good morning to you all. My name is Hara. I'm a member of the Youth Council of the Municipality of Thérmη. And here we have 4 students from the WPI University in Massachusetts. They're going to present their findings about the research and the surveys they took in the aspect of our work as a youth council. And their goal is to help us grow more and increase our membership. I will let the floor to you guys introduce themselves.
Thank you, Hara. So, as Hara said, over the past 7 weeks, we've been working on a project that's been focused around exploring the youth interests in Thérmη in an attempt to help their council. First off, we're going to introduce our team, starting with Abby.
I'm Abby. I'm a third-year student studying actuarial math.
I'm Michaela. I'm also a third-year student and I study computer science.
My name is Ryan. I'm also a third year studying mechanical engineering.
My name is Eric and I'm a fourth year studying aerospace engineering.
So first off, we'd like to start by thanking all of the people who have helped us while we're here. This includes the people from the municipality we've worked with, Vasilis and Teresa, as well as the youth council members who've been very helpful to us, Hara, Stavros, and Ayana, our professors, Bob and Darko, for helping us along the way, and finally the municipality of Thérmη as a whole for allowing us to do this project and for giving us so much assistance while we've been here. To start off, we're going to give a roadmap of where our presentation is going to go today. We're starting off with a little introduction for those of you who may not be as familiar with what our project is focused on and the Youth Council itself. Then we're going to move on to the approach and what we did while we were here. And finally, we're going to end off with what we have gotten from that approach. So to start off with our purpose in Thérmη, our university has a program that has the engineering students go off in their 3rd year to do a social science project focused around helping different communities around the world. The Greece Project Center was started in 2016 and so far has completed over 45 projects in the region. As I said, this is a social science project for engineering students, so we are in no way experts, and this is one of our first times doing something like this. So we are not professionals. We are just doing the best we can here, and this is one of the graduation requirements we have as part of our studies. So the overall goal of this project is to determine the interests and concerns of the Thérmη youth and to identify opportunities for broader civic engagement.
Thank you, Ryan, for introducing our project. Now I'm going to provide some background on the Youth Council. So the Youth Council of the Municipality of Thérmη was created in May 2020 by the municipality in an effort to give youth a platform to express their ideas and focus on important issues in their community. Members of the council are between the ages 15 and 29, interested in forming a youth collective for personal and community development, and must live or work in Thérmη. The municipality sponsors the council and provides them with any resources they may need, funding, which they have a dedicated budget for, permits, or space. They have many different types of events, including volunteer cleanups, youth forums, vocational guidance workshops, and community events such as the art festival. The council decides on what events it will do using sociocracy, which is a unique organizational structure in which the circles are linked and it's based on consent. So since it's based on consent, all members must agree to an idea before they move forward. Otherwise, they have to go back and edit the idea so everyone approves. Usually there's linked circles, and the Youth Council used to have 5 local circles linked to a general circle with representatives from each of the smaller circles. But due to a decline in membership, they're only using the general circle now. The Thérmη Youth Council had 75 active members at the height of its participation in 2020, and now there are only about 20 active members. So there was no clear reason for this decline in membership, so our project's aim was to determine how to increase youth civic engagement and attract more members to the Youth Council.
So to accomplish the goal that Abby just discussed, we used 4 main approaches: key informant interviews, Thérmη Square interviews, activities with students, and surveys with students. Starting with the key informant interviews, we spoke with members of the Youth Council as well as the municipal officials who work with them. In these interviews, we explored 3 main questions. 1, what are the strengths of the council? 2, what challenges does the council face? And 3, what would help the council? Moving on to the Thermi Square interviews. For this, we spoke with young people passing through the square. We spoke with 16 people in the target age group of the council and explored the following questions. 1, what do the Thermi youth do in their free time? 2, what do they like about clubs that they have participated in? And 3, what is preventing their participation in the council? In addition to the interviews that we completed, we also visited a high school and technical college in Thermi. During these visits, we had students participate in different activities. At the technical college, we asked them 2 questions. 1, what is something that annoys you in your daily life? And 2, what teams or clubs have you been a part of? The students wrote their answers to these questions on Post-it notes and then discussed as a group. We also had at the high school, we asked them to draw something that conveys their feelings about living in the municipality of Thermi. The pictures that they drew can be seen on the table, and they also discussed these as a group. At the same high school and technical college visits, we distributed surveys to the students. They explored the following subjects: how much free time did Thermi youth have? What type of events would Thermi youth attend? And did Thermi youth plan to stay in Greece? The questions looked like this. And for our respondents, we had 58 responses from the high school visit. They aged from 16 to 18 years old and were almost equal in gender distribution across age groups. They also, for the high school students, lived in 4 different villages: Nea Redestos, Thermi, Triadi, and Peristera. The technical college participants, we had 46 responses, aging from 18 to 21 years old, and the gender distribution varied across age groups. All of the approaches that I just discussed, the key informant interviews, Thermi Square interviews, activities with students, and surveys with students, helped us to learn about the results that Abby will now discuss.
So first, we asked high school students what types of community events do you find interesting. The choices for these events were based off our archival research of the Youth Council past events. So this data will help the Youth Council see what events to do again. So the most popular one was a concert, and then blood donation and tree planting. There was also moderate interest in all the rest of the events. So if these events were more publicized, we know people are interested and more people would possibly attend. Next, we asked both high school and college students what types of events would young people want to attend. It includes events that the Youth Council may not have had before, as well as ones that they have had. So the top for high school students is career skills, and then art and help in school. They also indicated moderate interest in community improvement, such as volunteer cleanups or civic engagement, which includes protesting or political activity, and technical skills which relate to their future career. They also suggested other events such as food festivals, movie reviews, chess events, and then we asked the same questions to college students. They also had career skills as their top, followed by art, and then technical skills related to their community. They had help in school, rated a lot lower because that's tutoring, so they had technical skills higher related to their career. The Youth Council might want to form different committees based around these different types of events, since the interests varied, and that would create less of a time commitment for Youth Council members. They would be more willing to join if it was events they're interested in. Next, we wanted to get an idea of what activities do Thermi youth do in their free time, because if a student is already doing something like painting, they would be more likely to attend an event that has painting. So the high school students were very active. This includes team sports, working out, going on walks. Next, they were social, which includes getting coffee with friends or just hanging out with friends. And then they had artistic, which includes things like painting, dancing or singing, and then we had entertainment, which is watching TV or movies. Many of them spend their time being active, and the second and third, being social and artistic, really supports the choice that high school students would want to attend a concert because it combines both being social and artistic. For the college students, they also indicated their highest level of free time activities were active, but they spend more time being artistic and engaging in activities for entertainment rather than social activities. The Thurman Youth Council may attract more members by planning an event involving physical activity because overall, youth are spending most of their time being active.
Thank you, Abby, for discussing the results that we got from our surveys. Now I will discuss the results that we got from our activities. So the two activities that we did were a post-it note activity and an art depiction activity, and these are classified as youth participatory action research. This method allows us to perform research with people instead of on people through facilitating discussion and performing these activities instead of just observing as an outsider. And these results differ from the survey results because it gives us a better understanding of the why behind the responses that we get through our debrief discussions. So with the post-it note results, it was very similar to the survey, where we had a majority of the students were interested in sports like volleyball and basketball, as well as walks and hikes. And during our discussion, they mentioned that these are active and social activities, which is why they found them interesting. And then the others were the artistic events, so dancing, singing, painting, and music. And they mentioned that these activities allow them to express themselves. So for the art activity, we asked the students to draw something in response to a prompt. And from these results, as you can see, they allowed these students to create an artifact to describe their feelings towards something that may be difficult to conceptualize with just words alone. And from our 24 drawings, we had 15 that represented something with the natural landscape. We had 8 that represented something with social connections with family and friends, and we had 6 that were outside of these categories with topics like transportation or politics. So then after combining all of our findings from our activities and our Thermi Square interviews, we categorized our underlying themes, and the first theme is appreciation for natural landscape. So one of the students from the high school visit drew this picture and captioned it, "I like living in the municipality of Thermi because it is close to nature. My paper depicts the natural beauty that Thermi has." And another drawing is this one, and they captioned it, "I drew the lake of Thermi. It is a very beautiful place that makes everyone that visits it feel free and happy. You have to visit it." So from this, we got an understanding that they like feeling close to nature in Thermi. But then with the next theme, we also got a sense that there is a lack of novelty or a lack of new experiences in Thermi. And one of the high school students mentioned in our discussion after the depiction activity, we don't get to know other people and communicate with others. We only know each other. We are a very closed community. And then another student said, "I just think that it's a perfect place to grow up, and we had a pleasant childhood, but as we grow up, we need more things to do. Like in the center of Thessaloniki, there are more shops, more cafes or restaurants, and there's more life to it. But here, it's pretty quiet, and we go to school, we go to our home, we speak to our friends, and that's it. We don't have any new experiences." And then finally, another student said, "Thermi is more for older people, not for the young people. Young people want opportunities, want to go someplace else." So with these quotes, and from that discussion, we got an understanding that they love where they live, but there's a sense of feeling stuck here. And that ties into our next theme, which is unreliable transportation. So during our Thermi Square interview, we had one of the interviewees say, "Transportation is terrible. I live an hour and a half away from my school, so transportation can be pretty bad." And then a high school student drew this picture and captioned it, "In Demos Thermi, the thing I don't like is that in my village, we don't have enough buses. One time, a bus arrived after 2 hours and 40 minutes of waiting." So with this, we get the understanding that if it's difficult for students to get to school or commute to areas in Thermi or outside of Thermi, it may be difficult for them to attend youth council meetings, so that could contribute to the declined engagement. And then another topic we had was frustrations with the current politics. So this student drew this picture and captioned it, "There's only a few people leading, not considering the opinion of others or how to better their land, and just looking at us for opportunities to further the gap between them and us." Now this is a very powerful picture, so we wanted to pause here and get insight from the audience about what do you see in this picture? How does it make you feel? Anyone can.
I love the constellation of planets. It's great. What is it supposed to symbolize? I'm not sure.
I'm asking you. Does anyone have any input? Yep.
Probably symbolizing something like they think that they're the center of the universe. That's how I would interpret it.
Yeah. So with this, we got a sense that the students or the young people in Thurmey, they feel that they can't trust the politicians. And that goes into our next of youth mistrust. So when we asked the Thurmey Square interviewees, would you join the youth council? One of them said, "It's really hard to trust things like the youth council and the municipality. Here, usually people try to take advantage of the system and its people, and it can end up really bad." So with this, we got a sense that the young people in Thurmey associate their feelings about politics with the youth council, and that could contribute to the overall hesitancy to join.
All right, so now we're going to go into some survey data that we gathered. One of the questions we asked was, do you care about the healthier village? Just to kind of get an idea of how people felt. The answer was an overwhelming yes, with at the technical school, 60.9% of our survey respondents saying yes, and at the high school, 82.8% of our survey respondents saying yes, which is good, and it's impactful considering the next slide, which we asked, are you planning on staying in Greece? And more people than not were planning on leaving Greece. So even though they care about the health of where they are in their village, they're still planning on going somewhere else, which has the possibility to contribute to youth council disengagement, because there may be the thought that, well, if I'm leaving anyway, there's not much I can do while I'm still here. Next, we talked about how many free hours, how much free time students had per week. The most respondents, or the most common response was between 1 and 5 hours free per week. Based on our interviews with the Thurmey Youth Council, the amount of time that must be dedicated can range between 4 hours and a full-time job, with the majority of the data lying between 1 hour free and 17 hours free. This means that there could just be simply not enough time in these people's lives to contribute to the youth council. And lastly, we asked in our Thurmey Square interviews, have you heard of the youth council? We had 16 people that we asked this question to, and only 2 said yes. So that means overwhelmingly, based on the data that we have, the people in Thurmey don't know much about the youth council, which is very impactful in understanding why people aren't joining, because if they don't know what it is, they can't join it. And thank you all. We have a discussion following this, but right now, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask?
Yes, I have a question. Can you go back 3 slides?
3 slides.
One more.
Yeah.
Yes. What did you mean by health in this question?
Like well-being.
Yeah.
Well-being of the citizens or the city? Or
This was the exact question that was
this
on
was
the
the
survey.
exact question. And then how did the respondents interpret the question? Do you have a sense?
It seemed like the respondents interpreted the question as just their village as a whole. So their friends, how people interact, how people act towards each other, transportation systems, things like that. So basically seemed like they took the village as a whole and responded based on that from the answers we had during our discussion. Does anybody else have any questions?
It's not so much a question, maybe you'll get to this, but it's more just a sense of explaining what it was like for you to do the project. Not really a question. I don't know, maybe you're going to get to that sometime, but here we are with some people here. What was the experience of doing this project?
I think it was fun. We got to meet a lot of different people. And we did the different activities, so it was like a variety instead of doing the same thing over and over again. We still had the survey, which like creates some uniformity, but still that it was nice to do the events and have a different approach to learning.
Also, this is not something we've ever done before, so this was a very new experience. And something we're probably going to remember for the rest of our lives, and it might help us further in our careers or in our jobs and later in life. So this is something that will not soon be forgotten.
It was definitely a chance for us to step outside of our comfort zone. Like you said, we're not experts, so to do these WPI activities without really knowledge of how they're going to go or what we're going to get from them, it was definitely like stepping outside of our comfort zones, which I think it helped us a lot.
Great, I just wanted to know.
Yeah, can you go back to the slides that I think the high school students said what they would like to do? There was one slide with a lot of workshops, and I have a question about the previous.
This one? There's another one with like the events that you have done.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The community improvement was like how they said community, like what answers did you have and you put community improvement?
For like tree planting or like volunteer cleanups,
Okay.
like specifically.
I missed the part.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I was wondering how it felt to interview people with about the same age as you and also in college. Was there something special about that? Were they aware that you were college students too?
So when we started our interview, we gave them an introduction as to who we were and what we were doing. And it was a very different experience because the interviews that I've had have always been with someone older, usually interviewing me. It felt more like a conversation with someone our age rather than an interview sometimes, where we were just talking to them and getting to the questions that we wanted to know the answer to. But there was not really the pressure or, I guess, forced kind of, the forced answers of a interview in a professional setting or in the workplace.
I think it also helps like get better responses since we're around the same age, they know how it feels to like do a project and how they would feel doing this. So I think it helps.
It was also interesting to think about the differences in like the answers that I would give based on like my experience in the U.S. versus the responses that we got. So that was really interesting.
And how different were your answers?
I think we got a lot of responses about transportation, which is just something that like I would like that wouldn't be something that I would think of as like impacting my daily life. I have like relatively, because I drive a lot, and it's just different to see, and like the interests as well. There's like different culture around like a youth council or a youth clubs, which is interesting.
One final question for me, please. When you were going to school, so top 16 people in the Third Square, did they tell you, like, tell the young people of the youth council to do that? Like, did they express something to a suggestion or something like for you to like tell us, or maybe not?
So what I got from that was mainly that when they didn't know what the youth council was, we explained it, and they actually expressed, some of them actually expressed interest in joining. They just didn't know about it. So the main thing that I got was that the majority just doesn't know what the youth council is or what it does. So the suggestion I would have from that would just be to advertise more, get more people at least knowing who you are and what you're doing. That way you can, when you walk into Thirming Square, most people know who you are instead of fewer people knowing.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? So, should we do a discussion?
Just one question. This question it begs to be asked. Like you said, you've been doing a lot of work on civic engagement and youth engagement, and so I'm just sort of interested in kind of follows from what you said, Michaela. What about your background or thinking about youth engagement in the United States? How would you consider sort of your experience with youth engagement, with what you've seen here?
I think personally, like there's a similar distrust or mistrust of government institutions. Like I think if a lot of my friends were asked to join a youth council, they would be maybe like associating it with like the federal government, like the big U.S. government, and they would be mistrustful. So that was like a similarity that I noticed.
At home, I don't really know much of like the councils around Worcester, but I know in high school I was in like something somewhat similar, but it was like school-based, and we actually like created questions like to ask like state and local like politicians, so we would like actually get those answers that we wanted to know. But that was really all we could.
In my experience, the organizations that I've been a part of have done similar things, but in a less political nature, so they were seen as more separate from the government rather than intertwined. So the organizations I were a part of who did, let's say, art, helped in school, community improvement projects, stuff like that, were not at all associated with the government, which helped with membership because there was not that association with politics. In some ways, and in other ways it wasn't as well presentable because there was not really an avenue to ask politicians certain questions.
So let's go back to Barack Obama, who says, you are the change you want to see. You make the change you want to see. So politics isn't only necessarily about that other, being the government, but about you. Was that something that was part of, you were growing up in the Obama era? I'm interested in just understanding the way in which you're kind of seeing politics as somehow very negative. I think we're on to that. I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's an interesting discussion that in America in some ways it seems to be somehow problematic, whereas here the idea of civic engagement is a consideration around whether a political life could become. Maybe that's something. Maybe that's a discussion. That's a discussion for everybody.
Yes.
Maybe we can use that as a discussion question because I think it's fascinating. Fascinating point you raised.
Because everyone thinks that if you are in a youth council, you have a connect with the government.
Right.
This is not true.
Yeah.
That goes to what they said, the lack of information.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we're just teeing up the discussion.
So if that's the case, well, let's move into the discussion questions.
Thank you.